Hi, and welcome to another episode of Walleye Chronicles, where I bring you guys in the studio or I get you on the phone and talk about how fishing has affected your life. From the start as wee big kid to what you're doing right now and what the future looks like for you. Today, I got Cole Solberg with me, actually Captain Cody Solberg with me today. Talk a little bit about his life and how everything started off from fishing to where he is today. How you doing today, Cody?
Good. How are you, Matt?
Not too bad. So, a quick Google of you, and I find that you have one heck of a YouTube channel.
Yep, you're right there.
You have looks to be a very successful guiding campaign going. You have a lot of big fish. You do salmon, you do walleyes. Do you do muskie too?
I don't do, well, I shouldn't say that. I ran a couple muskie trips this year, but I try to stick into my wheelhouse with walleyes and salmon, you know.
But it's hard in Green Bay not just, kind of sneak over. You're right there.
Right.
Everything's there for you.
Right, yeah. I mean, it really depends on what customers want to do. I mean, if they ask to go muskie fishing, that's what we'll do. We'll go muskie fishing. But majority of what I'm doing is walleye.
I suppose people get used to you and they want to fish with you.
Pretty much, yeah. And YouTube plays a big part in that. I'm booking my trips and stuff like that. So it's fun.
So back to when you're a wee bit kid, how'd you get started? What was fishing young life like?
Oh man, I mean, it's probably tough for me to remember, but I kind of grew up fishing in my grandma and grandpa's backyard. They got a little pond back there, and yeah, any chance I could get to go out there, with a bobber and a worm, I'd go back there and try to catch some fish. And that's at a real young age. That's kind of what I did, until I got a little bit older, and I was old enough to go out on the big boy boat, with grandpa and dad out to Michigan, Winnebago, Green Bay, wherever it may be. That's kind of how I got started. The roots got planted.
Yeah. So in the little, what was in the little pond? Was it like a fishing pond or just like a pond? It
was just a pond. I mean, there's maybe little bluegills in there every now and then, but it was mainly filled with like sucker fish.
Okay.
So I just, anything I could catch that would make the bobber go down just,
right.
Was a ton of fun for me as a kid. So
that's cool. So then you moved on to fishing with your dad and your grandpa. So you fished Winnebago, Michigan. What was your favorite as a kid? What was your favorite fish species to fish back then?
I would probably, if I had to have a favorite back then, it'd probably be salmon. Okay. Just because of the experience behind it, going out when it's like flat calm, sun's coming up, dad, grandpa are just hooting and hollering because it's going to be a good day,
right.
Getting out there, getting the line set up and everything, just kind of calm and quiet until you hear that first drag just start ripping, that's the thrill of it.
Right?
So
it's funny to me that salmon fishing's really good locally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have no clue.
Yeah. It's actually, it surprises me every time, I'm out with clients or I'm even just out and about talking with people that, the amount of people that don't actually know you can get salmon in Lake Michigan.
Right.
It's like, it's mind boggling to me that a lot of people don't know that, but yeah, it's true.
That's crazy. So those first times out fishing, so you start out early in the morning. How's it all the kind of break down a day?
Yeah. I mean, dad would wake me up real early, probably 3:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We'd hitch the boat up and take the boat down. Basically, we launched out of Two Rivers and Manitowoc. Okay. Those are the two main ports that we went out of. So we'd get there, around 4 o'clock, be putting the boat in the water. Keep in mind, it's pretty dark yet,
Yeah.
So as a little kid, you're pretty tired. You don't necessarily want to be there yet, but then the sun starts coming up, you're racing out there, you get to 80 to 100 feet of water, you start setting lines, and then it's just a waiting game. But most of the time, we'd have a fish while we were setting up, drag would just start ripping, and my dad would hand me the rod and he'd basically have to help me hold it because those fish are so big,
Right.
and I'd sit there and just crank on it, until I got it to the boat. So yeah, those were the days back in the young ages of me, I guess.
So was there any special stops on the way there? Where's the quick trip stops of the day or any special bait stores, stops they had to hit up?
Yeah, no, not that I remember. It was pretty much just straight there. I was lucky if dad remembered to pack a lunch most of the time, so, but yeah, no special stops for the most part. So
did your dad and grandpa fish a lot? Was that like their main thing, fishing of like salmon? Was that kind of their go-to?
Yeah. Salmon was pretty much the main targeted species throughout the summer. I would say for the most part, we did a lot of walleye fishing mixed in there too. But grandpa and dad, they really loved the salmon fishing side of things. So we did a lot of that.
So when it came to leaving Michigan, was it all trolling basically kind of a thing? Was it kind of, they took the same basic stuff and went over to Winnebago or on the other side of the peninsula? And
Yeah. I mean, a little different gear, but same thing. If we went out to Green Bay, we'd be trolling crankbaits for walleyes, So that's kind of what I grew up doing, was the whole trolling thing, and that was popular back then before, electronics really took over. But yeah, it was for the most part just setting boards and trolling.
So have you had a chance to, so obviously you fish with forward facing.
Yeah.
So have you had a chance to take your dad out and teach him that kind of stuff, or what does he feel about that? Or is he just like, no, we're trolling?
Yeah. No, actually we fished the NTC back in June here.
Okay.
And I actually got the chance to kind of help my dad, learn the basics of live scope, show him what it can do, and really try to dial him in. He's still getting there. He actually bought it himself now,
okay.
so he's
able willing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's the first part to learning how to use Garmin Live Scope, is you got to be willing to learn. There's a lot of older people, older generation that don't really want to learn how to use that technology because they're like, whatever, stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's cool being able to teach my dad. Grandpa, he's just no. It looks cool, but I don't want it, And then most of the clients I get, even some of the older guys, they're really, motivated to learn how to use that system. So
what opens up a whole different way of fishing too for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Not a whole different way. Everybody casts and stuff, but the more success doing it.
Yeah.
And just going,
it's
a reef here someplace, I'm going to cast and see what happens.
It's incredible. I mean, just the amount of water you can break down with it. I know I don't even really make a cast anymore unless I know I'm casting at fish, which in some ways may be, cheating, as some would say it, right? At least that's all the comments that I get on my YouTube videos. But at the same time, you still got to get the fish in the boat. So
that is true. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily cheating more as what, side imaging or whatever. All that stuff kind of steps us in a direction, right?
Right.
Helps us break things down faster and faster. It's not like it's, granted, this is a little different than everything else. It's a lot more like ice fishing in a way.
Yeah.
And those guys don't complain about ice fishing, do they? Right? They don't take their Vexlars away. Just go take an old Ego Pro Super ID or whatever down that just has the fish image going back and forth.
Yeah. It is funny though. I mean, I do get there's a ton of comments, especially like on my Garmin videos, heavily like, yeah, it's cheating, you're ruining the fishery, blah, blah, blah. It's like, really? Yeah. I mean, I think we're doing a pretty good job adapting to the electronics that we have right now in the industry. And with that power, you got to have a little bit of responsibility on the lake, depending on where you're fishing. Green Bay, maybe not so much just because it's such a big body of water, but some of those smaller inland lakes, especially up north, you got to be careful.
Yep.
It definitely can be detrimental if used in the wrong way.
Right. Do you think it's the more the electronics or the social media that hurts the lakes?
I guess it could be a little of both. With the social media thing has definitely blown up a lot of areas. That's no secret.
Right.
Me personally, as a YouTuber, I always do my best to, try and conceal where I am, try to hide where I am. I don't, say names of lakes or anything like that. Obviously, Green Bay or Lake Michigan, it doesn't matter. But any of the smaller lakes that we go up to up north, I try to keep it pretty tight. I don't really say too much about the fishery. I may talk about the ecosystem, weeds, rocks, whatever we're fishing. I just don't talk too much about the body of water.
That makes sense. I just kind of feel like sometimes people want to share, even regular people want to share everything nowadays. Right. And it just kind of brings people there faster than what they normally could be.
Yeah. And it's also just another one of those things that people just need something to blame too, right?
That's true.
So it's, we'll blame the electronics today, or we'll blame social media, right.
That's funny. What was the first electronics you used? What'd they have on the boat back then?
I don't even remember, to be honest. I think it was just a standard, whatever it was, Lowrance sonar unit, black and white.
Just looking for depth more.
Yeah, it wasn't even color. I mean, it marked fish, but other than that, it wasn't anything special. I do remember Grandpa, when we used to do some pan fishing, he had I don't remember, it might have been a Lowrance. I don't remember what it was. It's just a little black box and it basically folded open. And it was basically sonar, I believe. I mean, you wouldn't get the arches. They'd just be little fish marks, right?
Oh, okay.
So Grandpa would be like, if you start seeing any fish marks on the screen, let me know. So he'd be driving through like a little bay where there's a ton of like panfish and weeds and stuff. And as soon as I'd start seeing those little fish marks, I'd let him know, hey, Grandpa, there's fish here.
That's funny. So growing up, what town did you grow up in?
I grew up in Brillion.
Okay. Well, okay, there's some fish in there. So did you have any like places you could go as a kid? Like you could just go with your buddies at all, or?
We normally just kind of fish the creeks in the area. For the most part, that's really all we really had in like Brillion. There's some ponds and stuff around like that. But most of the time it was, venturing out somewhere, whether it was, even up north. We have a cabin up in Crivets that I've been going to ever since I was a tiny little kid. So High Falls Flowage was a pretty good fishery for us for panfish and stuff like that. So we always spent time fishing off the dock up there and stuff. But once I got a little older, and I was able to drive, I kind of spent a little more time, like venturing out to like Lake Winnebago, fishing the harbors and stuff for crappies and bluegills and stuff in the springtime. I did that with buddies anytime we could get out and fish, before
Once
or
you
after
get a car,
school.
it kind of changes, it opens up your scope of fishing.
Right. Yeah. Cause then you can go anywhere.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, that's mainly what I kind of fished as a kid growing up, I guess.
Okay. So when did you get keys to the boat? When did you get a boat? When was that available to you? When was the power there?
So pretty much right when I got my license, my dad found a boat for me. It was a 16-foot Sea Nymph back troller. I think it only had like a 25 or 30 horse Mariner on the back, and I ended up buying that boat for $2,500.
Not bad.
I think. And yeah, that was kind of my runabout boat. I ran that thing everywhere. I actually even took that thing, to 100 feet on Lake Michigan trolling for salmon. I did everything I could with that boat.
You want to do everything with your own boat. You want to go, if your dad's going someplace, I want to be able to go there. I want to be able to do everything I did as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. You just deck it out and you make it so you can do anything out of it, So hand crank downriggers over the side, planer boards off the side with a couple of rod holders and you're set. That's all you need.
Right.
And then we just putt around with the big motor. If we needed to slow the boat down, we toss buckets out or put a trolling plate on the motor just to slow it down. But that was reality for a little while, just fishing out of that thing back and forth from Michigan to Green Bay to Winnebago for walleyes, just, doing everything I could with it.
So what did you do to that to make, besides that stuff, was there anything else that you did to it that kind of made it your own style or how you wanted to fish with it? Is there anything like?
Not that boat. I didn't really do too much to that boat. I did. So after kind of going forward with the story, after I had that Sea Nymph, I ended up selling that. I pretty much sold it for what I bought it for. And then
that's the best part about boats.
Right. Yeah. And at this point I was a little bit older, so I actually, was more, getting into like kind of like the water sports things. So like kneeboarding and skiing and that kind of stuff with buddies. So I ended up buying like a 1980 fish and ski rinker.
Okay.
And I think I picked that thing up for like $3,200 or something.
Just walking up as you go.
Right. It was nothing that I'd see myself fishing out of. You don't fish out of a fish and ski, right? Maybe with bobbers and stuff, but it's not something that you necessarily troll with.
That would be a good video, hey?
Yeah, it would be. Right. And I wish I was doing videos back then, because it's freaking hilarious how I had that thing, rigged up and ready to go. Yeah, same thing, except on the rinker, I installed electric downriggers on the side. And then I ended up putting a Minn Kota on the front with, it was a 36 bolt. So I had to have 3 big lead acid batteries in the front of this fishing ski. And it was like only 18 foot long too. So that those batteries up there really kind of pushed the bow of the boat down pretty good. But yeah, I used that fishing everywhere. I fished out of that for probably 2 years.
Wow.
Trolling on Winnebago, Green Bay, out on Lake Michigan, a ton with that thing. I still have pictures. Whipping around in that thing. But yeah, it was incredible fishing out of that. And all I wanted was a bigger boat. That's why I went with that. But yeah, back when I didn't have, a whole lot of money and I was still kind of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, I thought it was awesome,
So when you first got your boat, the Sea Nymph boat, what was the first time out like? Do you remember the first time out when you were not by yourself?
Yeah.
Not with your dad, with?
Yeah, I took a buddy out. We actually went out to Lake Michigan. It was really early. I think there was most of the landings were still iced up, so you couldn't even get out like a normal landing. And we were going out on Michigan to fish for brown trout along the shorelines. And I don't remember the landing that we went to, but there's just a landing that goes directly into the lake. There's no harbor or anything. I believe it's like a little south of Manitowoc somewhere. And we basically just dumped the boat in. It's just a basically sand landing.
Okay.
So we were able to get the boat in. It took me forever to get the motor started. It was so dang cold, and it just, nothing wanted to work. Finally, I got it going, and we just didn't shut it off the whole trip.
Leave it on, let it go.
Yeah. But we spent the next couple hours basically just trolling the shorelines until we got too cold. I don't remember catching. I don't think we caught anything. But we spent a good couple hours just trolling shorelines looking for brown trout. But yeah, that was a heck of a day in that thing. I just remember, cussing, trying to get that thing started. But yeah, it was fun.
There's nothing worse than the motor not starting in the morning.
Right. Yeah, that's it. It is, especially when all you're thinking about is fishing. You just want to get out in the water, and we didn't. That was something new for me too, was doing the brown trout thing. So I didn't really know what I was doing. We were just kind of experimenting now that we had a boat to do it in.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh.
Good times.
So you had a lot of good times on those boats. What's your favorite memory of that boat?
Probably when I blew the motor up. That's when I knew I needed a fishing ski. My
More because of you, or because it was old?
Yeah, no, it was because of, maybe a little of both. I decided to do some kneeboarding behind it one day, and it was only, like I said, it was like a 30 horse motor, and it was middle of summertime, and we weren't fishing. It was warm out.
Yep.
And so we hopped in the boat. I hopped on the kneeboard, and we were ripping around for a little bit. I think I made it maybe 2.5 minutes before the motor blew up. And that was kind of the end of that. So took the motor in, and I took it over to a boat shop, actually Anchor Marine here in town. And they helped me put that motor back together. He actually let me back there, and I kind of helped watch and rebuild it.
Yep.
That way we could get it going again. And it worked. We got it all put back together. And then that's when I ended up deciding to sell it and move on to something bigger. But yeah, so don't use like a 30 horse motor to ski behind or anything like that.
So next boat, what's the best memory of the fishing ski? Sounds like you had a blast on the fishing ski.
Yeah, the fishing ski. That was a fun one. My favorite memory out of the fishing ski was probably when my dad and I were actually working construction together. That's what I kind of did before I got into fishing full time, was construction. So my dad and I were on the same job site here in Appleton. We were working at a pick and save, but we were on nights. So we were starting at like 5 and working till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, which is perfect. So one day we were kind of watching the weather. We knew it was going to be flat calm on Michigan, and Dad's like, all right, well, let's get a crew together and go out to Michigan. We'll leave here at 2, pick up the boats and go out there. So he got a crew together, and I got a crew together to go on the fishing ski. And yeah, he had a big 21-foot skeeter at the time. So he can beat me out to the spot all day long in that thing. But I wrangled up my buddy. We went out there, and we had a heyday. Like, I still to this day don't think I've ever caught that many fish that fast. Maybe June this year I did have a trip that went pretty well, but it was just an incredible day. We caught a ton of big kings, and I didn't have a live well, obviously, so I just had a little orange cooler that I was tossing all these fish in. We were done. The cooler is just packed full of fish, and so that was probably one of my best memories out of that boat, was just hauling in the fish in a fishing ski, Rinker fishing ski. So if you don't think you can do it, it's doable. Yep.
So when did you decide that you wanted fishing to be your life? When is there a moment or something that kind of made you go, hey, I want to find a way to do this?
Yeah. So it would have been, 2020 is when I did do it. I made the jump. I quit my full-time job to do basically media, full-time. It wasn't probably until maybe 2018 would have been the first Fox River video that I posted in the spring. Okay. And that was the first video for me that went per se viral.
Yep.
You know, it got whatever 10,000 views, but in my eyes, with a channel that has 400-300 subscribers, you know, that's
big.
great. That's big. You know, so that one kind of jump started it for me. And once that happened, I had a group from South Dakota reach out to me. Their group is called Mindak Outdoors on YouTube. He reached out and said that they were on their way to Green Bay, and you know, they were maybe hoping to try and fish with me. They just watched my video.
Yep.
And at the time they had like 2,500 subscribers, and I thought, you know what, this is a good opportunity for me. Collaborate, let's make it happen. So they came over. I met up with them the next day. They jumped in the boat and we did some fishing. And these guys were John, basically the main guy over at Mindak, was running this thing, and he was super serious about it. Basically like more serious than I ever thought I'd get with it. But I just kind of picked his brain a little bit on marketing and you know, the thumbnails and the YouTube titles and everything, like every little trick I could get from him. I just kind of soaked into my brain a little bit. And I think it was that at that moment where I was like, you know, I think this is something that I want to pursue a little further, you know, something that I really wanted to dig into. You know, the Guggen squad was just starting to take off. So those guys were doing really well with what they were doing. And I'm like, maybe I can do this. So it was from that point where I'm like, I'm gonna try and make this my full-time gig. So kind of cool to look back on, but here we are.
Was that in the fishing ski?
Nope, that was not in the fishing ski. Actually, my dad handed me the keys to the Skeeter for that one.
There you go.
So
did you get to borrow the Skeeter much or no?
Yeah. Yep. After I sold the Rinker, there was a time in there where I actually went back to school for construction management. You know, the field stuff was fun. I made a ton of money, but I knew it wasn't really what I wanted to do for my entire life. So I ended up going back to school and sold pretty much everything I had besides a little truck that I used to get back and forth with. And once I did that, I was fortunate enough that my dad let me borrow the boat quite often. You know, I was still able to kind of live out my passions, start doing the YouTube thing a little more with the Skeeter. So it was really nice of him to do that. It kind of got me to where I was today. And, you know, it meant a lot to have that boat, you know, out and about, being at a very young age. You know, I had a lot of lookers and people at the landing that would be like, you know, that's his daddy's boat or whatever. And I'm like, you know, it is, but I appreciate it. And, you know, I'm trying to make the best of what I got. You know?
I had seen you up there in the past and have followed your kind of stuff. And you never were messing around. You never were dicking around going 90 miles and up and down the river. You always very, very respectful in the water. Was there anything that you were worried about when he gave you the keys? Like, you're like, oh, I just can't mess this up, or backing in or nothing like that? Was anything that was like the one thing that maybe might have been his little thing that you wanted to make sure that?
The biggest thing for me was never running into the dock with it. You know, coming up to the dock to pick a buddy up or something, making sure that I don't hit the dock. You know, nice and easy coming into the dock.
Neutral is your friend,
right?
Your friend.
But other than that, I mean, Dad, he's like, it's got insurance on it, so if you're gonna wreck it. You know, so that kind of took the nerve off a little bit. But yeah, no, Dad was always really cool with it. You know, he always said, as long as you bring it home cleaner than you found it, you can take it out again.
That's fair. So as far as making the videos, what made you want to start making them originally? Just a document, or were you trying to kind of, at that first couple of videos, were you trying, before you had that 10,000, before those, were you just kind of document what you're doing, or were you trying, or thought maybe that you want to do that?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I got a couple of silly uncles that used to make videos. You know, they'd go out and they'd record their fishing adventures, and they were freaking hilarious. And, you know, and we'd get together at family gatherings and stuff, and we'd watch them. They put them on YouTube, but they weren't trying to. You know, it's just basically us that watch them for family fun, and it was always so funny watching that stuff. So I'm like, you know what, I want to do that. You know, and I kind of had a background in filming. You know, I was 12 years old. I kind of played around with video editing and short films and stuff like that. So I knew how to do it. It was just a matter of me picking up a camera again and filming my fishing adventures. So after seeing them kind of have a ton of fun with it, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take a camera with me next time we go. So it originally just kind of started out for, you know, some family fun and documenting stuff for for me and my family to watch or look back on.
So when does guiding come in all the thing? Is it kind of like a income kind of thing looking for, or what
Yeah.
drove you to becoming a captain? Because it's not an easy license to get.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, so man, when did I take my captain's license? It would have been right around COVID. So maybe 2021 or 2020, maybe the fall of 2020 or something like that. I did end up taking my captain's class, and I did do that because I knew, I mean, I'm not making a living off of YouTube. You know, I want to do that. That's my dream. You know, to share my adventures with the world, share my knowledge with the world. And that's going really well for me, but it doesn't necessarily, you know, pay the bills. So I went and got my captain's license because I figured, you know, maybe I can use YouTube as a platform to advertise a business for myself. You know, and that's exactly what I did. So I went and got the captain's license. I think I took a year before I actually did anything with it. So I had the captain's license for a year, didn't guide. And then the following year, I gained a little bit more traction on YouTube. And that's when I'm like, all right, I'm going for it. You know, I'm going to do this spring. Made a website, made a bunch of business cards, you know, and then started advertising the heck out of myself on my channel throughout my Fox River content. And after I started doing that, I started booking trips almost instantly.
Wow.
After I posted that first video. So that's when I knew it was going to work. You know, that's when I'm like, all right, this is going to work. You know, I'm going to book some trips. We're going to go fish. I'm going to make some money, and I'm going to get to do this video thing, you know, and it's going to become a full-time thing. And, you know, that's exactly what it kind of turned into. And now I'm on year 2. I had a great year guiding this year. It was twice as good as it was last year. And I'm already starting to book some trips and stuff for next year already. So
how good does that feel to book your trips for next year?
Oh, it feels really good. I'm always excited, you know, to take people out. A lot of the people that I take out, I would say probably 90% of them are watching me on YouTube and are excited to learn. So it's nice getting those people in the boat and kind of interacting with the audience that's watching me.
Yep.
It's just kind of my way of, you know, helping them out and helping everybody get some fish, you know.
What's your favorite time of year to guide?
I would probably say spring, you know, on the Fox River, even on Green Bay. Yep. It's a ton of fun, just because you're getting into those bigger fish, you know, with the big bellies and stuff. Clients love that. Everybody's always in awe at what Green Bay can produce.
Just the whole like atmosphere too.
It's
crazy up there.
Yep. A lot of boats around, and yeah, I mean, even in August, there's a ton of big fish around, you know, so I had some really fun trips in August too, but I would say spring is probably the...
Do you film any of your trips in your guided trips or no?
I film a few of them. I need to start filming more of them because it's more content that I can post. But yeah, normally I'll ask the clients if they're all right with it being filmed. Most of them are 100% okay with it because, like I said, they're watching me, you know, so they're like more or less want me to film.
Yep.
But
You're
otherwise,
not filming today? What's the deal? We're not good enough?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I have had clients say that to me. Like, you know, they get in the boat and they don't see any cameras and they're like, "You're not filming us?" So, yeah, no, I try to film a few of them. Some of the trolling trips are a little easier to film than some of the casting trips because a lot of times with the casting trips, I'm more or less just teaching. Yep. You know, so it's a lot of education.
That'd be kind of cool though too, though. I feel like teaching. The actual hands-on teaching somebody. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I mean, like I said, there's nothing I love more than seeing the smile on somebody's face when that finally clicks, especially with live scope. You know, seeing the fish on the screen, pinpointing them, casting at them, and catching that fish. Yep. That right there, when the light bulb goes on for people, it's a really awesome feeling. Is that the hardest thing to teach people? Is the live scope? Or what's the hardest technique to teach, you think? Yeah, sharpshooting is one of the hardest techniques, mainly because it's difficult to get some people that have never used it before to understand that when the Minn Kota is facing this way, because I got my transducer mounted to my Minn Kota, when the Minn Kota is facing this way, that's what we're looking at. Yep. So you have to cast over there, not over here. You know what I mean? Right. So I get that a lot. You know, I'd be like, all right, they're 50 feet away, cast at them, and they cast this way. And I'm like, no, reel it up. The fish are that way. You know what else I find what's weird is that 50 feet in the water, like judging judging distance on the water is very difficult for a lot of people. Even it was for me, my hardest thing I ever to learn of that was judge, because there's nothing there. There's no
right.
You're just looking at water.
Yep.
Judging that distance is tough.
Yeah, it takes time to get that. Honestly, experience and just time on the water, you'll get it down pat. I mean, I'm to the point where I'm so used to making 70, 80 foot casts that it's like almost like autopilot. Right. I just know, like I could do it without looking and watch my jig go down on live scope. It's just, you do it so much and you start to really gauge, okay, that's 50 feet or that's 60 feet or, oh, they're at 90 feet, cast a little further. The biggest thing is you don't want to be short, because when you're short, you got to reel it back in.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're a little long, you might be able to bring it over top of them. So that normally works out. But yeah, that's just something that takes a little time to get used to.
Aside from sharpshooting, what's the other thing that's hard for them to do? Is it blade baits? Is it jigging? Vertical jigging? Do you do vertical jigging anymore?
We don't do a whole lot of vertical jigging.
My brain just racked through like some of your videos. I'm like, I don't know, last time maybe a hair jig video I saw, but I don't remember. There's not a lot of vertical jigging anymore.
I think Green Bay. Yeah. The only vertical jigging video that I have on my channel right now, I think, is from the Wolf River. And that was back in like 2018 or 2019 or something. That was the only vertical jigging video I have. Otherwise, yeah, I don't do too much vertical jigging. I don't really teach my clients. I guess one thing that might come to mind is maybe just kind of setting lines, setting boards. Mm-hmm. For somebody that really hasn't done it before, put the board on backwards maybe, or something silly like that. Where I would say it's not to an extent where it's really hard to teach them. Mm-hmm. It's just showing them how to do it, and then they understand.
Everybody's had this stuff with them to be able to do it,
right?
Because you can watch a video and then getting on the boat and doing it is not two different things, but you have the knowledge of kind of what needs to happen, but getting your hands on it is a little different.
Right. Yep. Oh yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, a lot of people are like, you make it look so easy in your videos, like the sharpshooting thing. And then I'm like, yeah, I know. It's something to watch it and think, okay, yeah, I can go out and do that. And then you get out there and you're clueless.
Right. That's true.
So to have the opportunity to get in the boat with me, like some of these people are, it's just kind of accelerating that learning curve for them.
I wish that I would have been a little late to it. So I went out with somebody like you guys, because we all had to kind of learn it together. There's not a lot of, there was a lot of people before us that were doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. You made a funny comment in one of your last videos about you had tried a couple times to make a video, but you weren't successful. So I want you to clear up the cleared up. Every time you go fish to make a video, do you make a video?
Absolutely not.
But how many times does it take, or how many times on average you think when you have an idea to go out and the video actually happens, or you're able to get the right catches?
I would say probably 80% of the time I get what I'm going out to do. Okay. So I'm pretty successful most of the time. Maybe that's just because I know, I'm fishing so much, so I just kind of know where fish are during certain times of the year. But there are times, where it gets tough. This last video, like the whole month of September, it was just a struggle. Like fish were really finicky, and I could have posted a video. Yeah, I've caught fish on those outings, but I only caught one or two. Yep. And in my eyes, that's not enough to make a quality video. I'm not going to put something out there that I wouldn't want to watch, so I'm not just going to compile something together, toss it on the YouTube channel just so I have some content out there. I really only post it if it's something that I would take the time to watch. So I like to go out there, catch a few fish, break down some of the techniques that I'm doing, catch a couple more fish, maybe break down another technique or talk about some rods or something, maybe talk about the ecosystem or how the fish are reacting that day, just some information, catch a couple more fish, and then maybe head off the water. So if I can't have that basically outline in a video, it ain't happening. And those days are extremely stressful, and there's a lot of days where I get to the landing and I'm just pissed off. Yeah. I didn't get a video today. Drove all the way up here, tried to get a video, didn't happen. Caught one fish, thought it was going to be great, and then didn't catch anything else after. Maybe some sheephead, which is great, But it's like, just gotta keep your nose to the grindstone and keep trying. I think in that last video that you're talking about, I did try 3 times to get a video before that one. And then I finally got that trolling video I did with Warren. So it was a struggle in September.
It just goes to show you that not every timeout is a video, kids.
No.
Not every timeout is video.
Absolutely not.
And for the full version of this podcast, check out Fix TV. And remember, follow me on the talk at Smile and Fish and everywhere else at Matt Snell.